welcome, Delia. Delia is the returning speaker of the summit, and she is a stress resiliency consultant and a neuroscientist. She has spent over 20 more years on researching into evidence-based actionable stress resiliency and brain health strategies. She is also the author of 2 books, Feed Your Brain. So welcome, Delia. How are you today?
I'm very well, Ella, and thank you for the opportunity to chat to you again. I always love talking to you.
Oh, lovely, lovely. So Delia, you have been with us for a couple of years, 3 years now. So I just wondering, what drives you to conduct so many researches and teaching and keep sharing your wisdom, not just in the academic world, but also with the general public?
It's a good question, Ella. I think for me personally, I really want people to understand that they have a lot of power in their lives, and I want to empower them with the knowledge that I've gained. I think that so often people feel like they can't make a change in their life, and specifically in terms of brain science, a lot of people are confused about the brain and how the brain works. So for me, I like to shine a light on this and say, you've got lots of power, and to give it to people. So for me, that's really important, just sharing that power and letting people take that knowledge and action it so they can live their best lives.
Fantastic. That's really cool. So on 27th of March, the Semi-Summit Day, what's your topic is going to be about? And what did the inspiration come from? And what do you hope people can take out of your session?
When I did my PhD, which was a deep dive into stress, I didn't know that COVID was coming 4.5 years later. And so I had just received my graduation, my PhD, and suddenly COVID hit, and I realized, oh my goodness, most people were not prepared for the onslaught of stress. And I realized that we talk about stress management, and I think that's an old-fashioned term now. I think we have to become stress resilient, which is why I've changed my focus, because the world is never going to go back to being an unstressed place. We now live in a different world, and until we become stress resilient, we're going to feel like we're overwhelmed and exhausted, that we can't think clearly, and we're going to be battling. So for me, stress resiliency is the topic that I'm going to be discussing on the 27th, and I really want people to walk away with the knowledge that we can make our brain more stress resilient. There are a few strategies that I'm going to be sharing with them, and when they walk away with those strategies, they're going to be able to face this brave new world that we all live in with a lot more confidence.
Wonderful, wonderful. So as you know, the purpose of the summit is to help people to understand how can they really optimize ourselves and understand why and how everything is connected. So along the journey of optimizing ourselves, what are the most common roadblocks that you believe people come across and they should look out for?
This is a good question, Ella. I think one of the things that happens to us is because of the way our brain works, in that we don't really like to change our behavior and our habits. Every single time we want to change a behavior or change a habit that's well entrenched, the brain says, no, I have to spend more energy to do that. And so it makes it very hard for us to change our behavior, because the brain doesn't like to use energy if it doesn't understand that there's a good benefit to that use of energy. So that's one of the things that happens in our very connected brains. So we have to find a way to not have goals, but have systems. So then we have a new system, or we have a system that's already working, and we just put in a new activity. And then that activity becomes part of that system. And we don't have to think about it. We don't have to plan for it. You know, as I say to people, we don't get up in the morning and say, I'm going to brush my teeth a few times today. We don't do that. We get up in the morning, and brushing our teeth is part of our morning system and part of our evening system. So I encourage people to rather look at a new habit and new behavior in that way, because then we kind of fool the brain into including something new in something it's already been doing for a long time. So that's something really important to keep in mind. It makes making habits a lot easier, because you also have a sense of accomplishment without an enormous effort attached. And the brain really loves that.
Lovely. This is a great idea, because sometimes I believe this willpower is overrated, and we don't really have the resources to use the willpower to make every single choice every single time. So before people attending your session on the 27th of March, what do you think people should be preparing or thinking before they come to your session so that they can get most out of your session?
I'd really like people that are coming to the session to read a blog post that I put up about how to switch our brain on after an off year. They'll get a little bit of background into the prefrontal cortex, which is this part of the brain, and why it really battles when we're stressed and how we can find ways to work around that. So when they read that, they'll get a little bit of a foundation for what I'm going to speak about on the 27th, because once we harness our prefrontal cortex activity in the proper way and we start feeding our whole brain what it needs, we can become stress resilient without a lot of effort.
Fantastic, fantastic. I'm already looking forward to your session, Delia. Really appreciate your time today and looking forward to seeing you 27th of March.
Wonderful, Ella. I look forward to seeing you too. Bye.
Bye.